Hey, what's up? This is episode 12 of One Tired Teacher, Anxiety in Our Schools. Last week on episode 11, we heard from a second-year teacher about the challenges of working in an alternative school and the high percentage of children who struggled with anxiety and other learning barriers. So today, on episode 12, I invited expert school psychologist Leslie Croissant in to dive deeper into the importance of recognizing, understanding, and reaching children with anxiety. Leslie shares some really powerful insight, and I've attached a freebie in the show notes to help you keep track of some of the important signs we need to look out for and ways that we can assist children with anxiety. You can grab it at Trina Debery Teaching and Learning / One Tired Teacher, episode 12. So let's get started.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Debery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Debery.
Welcome to episode 12, Anxiety in Our Schools. I'm so thrilled to have our guest today. She is a wealth of information and has so much to share with us on how to best meet the needs of children who struggle with anxiety. So today we have Leslie, who is a school psychologist, and she is here to share some of her insight. So hi, Leslie.
Hi.
So tell us a little bit about your experience.
This is my 8th year as a school psychologist, and I entered into the field in Florida, but I did most of my training up in New York State. So I have some good experience, I feel like, in two very separate areas because things are a little bit different everywhere you go, I feel like. I have worked every age that you would consider school age, and even some that you might not. I worked with pre-K for 2 years. Those students were just turning 3. So those, going into kindergarten, getting ready for school.
Wow. So that's a huge range of experience. And is that do you have a specific age range that you feel like you connect with the most?
I used to say probably high school. But I think that the more that I become comfortable, because just like we all are, I'm always learning. I'm always, building my skill sets. The more I work with any age, I just feel more comfortable, and then I enjoy it. I think, when you're comfortable with something, you enjoy it more.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think that's true. I was so scared when I was doing the media specialist and I had kindergarten and 5th grade because it was first and second were and mainly second was my experience. And then I was like, those kindergartners, it was like herding cats. I really think kindergarten teachers should get paid more money.
I would agree.
Oh man, I think I couldn't even believe it. And then 5th grade, I was scared. But then I loved them the next part of the year. I was they were just fun and you could joke around with them and they got things and it was just, I don't know, I ended up enjoying them. All right, so to the point. So one thing that I'm curious about, because something that happened in the last show was we talked about the possibility of overdiagnosing. Do you think that's a case with anxiety? Or do you
I think anxiety has become a very popular topic, and it's out there everywhere. You're hearing about it everywhere. Mm-hmm. Overdiagnosing is a good question. I guess I would have to really see the stats on that. I do believe that it's been it's gone up over the years for sure. But the question is always, are we just better identifying that in adolescents and in younger children? Or is something going on? So maybe some of what we talk about today will help answer that and kind of sort through it.
Absolutely.
Because there's just so much that contributes to it, I believe.
So what types of things do you feel contributes to it the most?
Well, we have different pressures that we're putting on our students now with all of the testing and the standards that they have to meet. Some of your information that you've posted about, students really aren't developmentally ready to read until they reach the age of 1st grade, yet we're expecting them to leave kindergarten. And some counties require students to be reading before they can exit kindergarten. That's enormous pressure when a brain isn't necessarily ready for that.
No.
So it begins that young. So those high stakes really begins that young. So you have that. You have I've seen a lot of just problem solving. I don't want to say deficits, but weaknesses. We're developing a generation that things are just given to them. There's so much immediate gratification with all the technology that's out there that when they encounter a problem, they don't know what to do with it, and B, that becomes stressful. So they don't know what to do, and then they worry about that, and they can't solve their problem because we haven't given them the tools to do that.
We haven't taught them how.
Exactly.
I know that there's a lot of blame, so to speak, on technology as being the cause of that. But what do you think about, if we're setting up our classroom where everything has to be we all must have our objectives on the left side of the board so that all students know that you can expect that on the left side of the board. And we're setting up classrooms like that, and we're putting these initiatives into classrooms where it all must look exactly the same. Don't you think that might contribute as well?
I swear I say the whole square peg round pole at least once a week, at least.
Okay.
So I absolutely think that. I mean, if you want to build child or children the same way, then teach them to do the exact same things, and you'll come out with the exact same child. It's the exact same issues. I also
that's sad.
It is. I have a little bit of a soapbox too.
Yes, good, because I totally agree with you. I'll stand and applaud. Go right ahead.
I have a particular interest in nutrition. And there's been a lot of research done with nutrition and anxiety, nutrition and depression, nutrition and mental health over in general. And one of the things that I don't think is known is the effects of processed food and malnutrition on our children.
That's fascinating. And I don't think we think about that very often. And it would actually make more sense why we see sometimes our numbers are larger in different populations. I think that's really
absolutely. So serotonin is, we kind of think of that as our happiness drug that's within us, but really what it's actually the biological function of it is cognitive. So your cognition, your learning, and your memory, and your processing. And the majority of your serotonin is built in your gut.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay, I did not know that.
I've seen some conflicting research, but up to 90% of your serotonin is built in your gut. So if you are not feeding yourself properly, we are not feeding our children properly, we're not giving them what their brains need, basically.
Wow.
Yes.
So what if they have what about I mean, this is a little bit off the topic, but
sorry.
No, I'm interested in as far as if you have food allergies, is that going to impact? Would that impact it if you're not digesting properly? Wouldn't that impact it as well? If that's
absolutely, because you're not the nutrients that you are taking in. If there's a gluten allergy or some type of an allergy that really restricts your diet, you're not going to be getting those nutrients. So then supplements are a whole other issue because what's in the supplements. So it's so multifaceted, and I really don't think there's enough out there. I haven't done enough research to really talk too much further about it, but just it's mind-blowing to think of that, gut brain connection.
Absolutely. I do. I think it's fascinating because then you think about has the food changed a lot in the last several
Oh my God, yes.
It's so much more about getting it fast and getting it out there. And here you go. And I got to make lunches. I'm just going to throw this. This nasty stuff in there. And yes, I mean that, and even school lunches have changed, I feel like.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, where chips and cheese on chips is a meal. I'm a little, I don't understand that.
Walking tacos. Have you seen the walking tacos?
That doesn't make sense to me. So, okay. So that is really unbelievable. I never even thought about that aspect. Do you see it being like anxiety being diagnosed more in like younger children now than you used to before? Because I feel like it's like we're talking about kindergartners.
Absolutely. Often it's missed though in kindergarten because it appears so different. I feel like in the younger ages, they exhibit different characteristics. So anxiety can look a number of different ways. Obviously, looking across genders, it's going to be different, but looking across ages, it's going to be different. And looking across individuals, they're going to exhibit different characteristics. So I do think that we see it, but I think that it often goes maybe misdiagnosed or just missed in general or put off as a behavior rather than what it really is.
I think that's really interesting. And I just found an infographic or whatever. I did share it, I think, this week on social media. And I noticed like different ways that it presents itself. And I'm like, I actually looked at that and felt guilty because, and I felt guilty because there were things about it that I didn't realize that could possibly be anxiety. And I think back about the kids that I've had in the past and I'm like, oh my goodness, they could have just been having anxiety all that time. And it wasn't necessarily, even my own daughter who like, I feel she's very, like she gets overwhelmed if things aren't exactly the way that she planned. And I always thought she had like, was a little like OCD, but I'm like, oh no, like I think this is anxiety.
Absolutely. Actually, I worked with a student today who has gone to Florida virtual school because they had such behavior difficulties in the public school setting. And just unfortunate circumstances. And the child is now doing Florida virtual. And, you know, here I'm evaluating the child because of the behavior difficulties that they were having when they were in the public school setting. And I'm seeing all of these characteristics of anxiety when I'm working one-on-one with this. I mean, so you want to talk about task avoidance. You want to talk about, you know, a refusal to complete assignments, distractions, squirming in your seat, all of these things, just super red flags for this student in particular. Really just, it's a coincidence. It's ironic that we're talking about it because I really think I saw some significant anxiety and that would make complete sense. Some perfectionism even. I think that's another big thing.
Yes.
You talk about, you know, we're teaching them standards. Everything has to look just like this. And if it's not, oh my goodness.
No, you're right.
And we don't teach them the coping skills and we don't teach them the creative thinking that it's okay to not fit in that square peg. Yeah.
Yes. And kind of like, even like celebrating some of your failures. I don't think we're doing that. So we're basically teaching them that they have to be perfect. But then when we're testing them to perfection or we're testing them until failure, until they actually no longer know the information, they feel like instead of learning from that failure, they feel like somehow they didn't measure up. So I think that bothers me a lot, actually. I could talk forever about that. But I want to know, like you're talking about some characteristics. What are some common characteristics? Because the things that people might miss. Now, obviously, it's a little easier when you know a little bit about like people feeling antsy or fidgety or looking worried or feeling gloomy and those kinds of things. It's a little easier to go, okay, well, they might have anxiety. But what are some of the things? Things that we wouldn't have tie that together. Does that make sense?
Yep. I would say anger is probably one of the things that is missed most often. When you are trying, like you had mentioned, like when you're trying to control a situation or when you're trying to be perfect and you don't kind of like that explosive anger, it seems like it comes out of nowhere, but really that person is probably holding on and, you know, trying to keep together and then they just let go at some point. So I think that probably happens a lot in the classroom and is missed.
Yes.
I talked a little bit about the fidgety things and things like that, but more than that, I mean, anxiety can mirror some of the characteristics of ADHD. So that can also be not just the squirminess and the moving around, but the child that is looking like they're daydreaming.
Yes.
So here we have ADHD, attention hyperactivity disorder, and we have an inattentive type, right? Where it looks like the child's daydreaming, but if a child's anxious, they also might be in their head and look like they're daydreaming. So when you have a kid that isn't able to articulate that, how do we know? I mean, we really have to be paying attention to all the clues, everything they tell us. I mean, we just have to know what to look for.
I think that's really interesting because yes, we do. How many kids have we diagnosed with ADHD that really it could be anxiety?
Exactly. Some of the other things that might, come into play that are a little bit more obvious than, picking at skin or nail biting, a strong startle response. So again, maybe, so you tap them on the shoulder and they just kind of, twitch, sudden avoiding social contact. All right. So that's another thing, there's the whole social anxiety piece that is definitely, I would say, more common when you get towards adolescence, but, going into large groups can also be, anxiety producing for a lot of students. So
that you would think, like sometimes when you've got kids in your classroom and then you transition to a special, like, I can remember times where the special area teacher's like, I'm having such problems with this person. And I'm like, really? But I think it's just even the transition of walking through a crowded, wherever group. I mean, because especially at the school that we've been in where we were together, it was large. So there was a lot of people. So traveling in the halls wasn't just you and your class. It was you crossing paths with 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, 8 other classes. And sometimes you weren't in that special by yourself. Like sometimes you had double classes in there. So now you're talking 40 something kids. And so no wonder that person, like if it's those kind of things, if it presents in that way, then kids are having trouble with that. So,
they're on overload. 100%.
Yeah, they're on overload. So we have some of those, some of those characteristics that just blows my mind. And the anger thing really makes a lot of sense. And I think back about kids that we've seen that have had like full on tantrums or had episodes of like extreme anger. It's upsetting to me to think that the underlying cause, I mean, I always wanted to know why. Like I was more about like, why is this happening? Why are they behaving this? What's causing this? What's going on inside? But I think sometimes we can't help it as teachers. I think sometimes to take it personally, and instead of looking at like what's going on with the child, we take it as like, I don't know, like you kind of get mad yourself, which that doesn't help.
I think that's probably one of the most difficult things because it can be frustrating. You want to help, you're putting forth this effort to really, be there for a student, but yet that personal level, it's not about us. It's about them.
It's about them.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So we've talked about like characteristics that we might be on the lookout for. So what are some things that we can do to help kids that have anxiety?
Well, I'm going to give a little plug to all mental health professionals within the school system because really this is a tough topic. And, you need to be, as teachers, you need to be deferring to some of those professionals. Counselors are trained, school psychologists are trained, school social workers are trained. We are there for you. We have, the tools in our toolbox. And if we don't, we're consulting with others within our department to get that support. But really, I would say, there's a big push right now to talk about mental health and to really get it out there. And I think the more you know, the more you can do, the more we talk about it, the more support you can provide students. Professional development is huge. And it's definitely something that's needed, should be required. But that's,
I think this has become it's seriously become like a bigger thing than
what you get in school to become a teacher. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think it's
I
one
know. We
class,
didn't talk about
maybe.
it at all. I mean,
Right.
I had a sociology degree when I went into education. So, like how people interacted in in communities and groups and things like that. I had a little bit more knowledge about that, but I didn't get anything about mental health in school. And honestly, not even in the last. I mean, like I think it's become like a little bit more. We've done a better job in just the past 2 maybe years because
Yeah.
even before that, like when I was still there, I'm like I don't remember getting a lot of even training then.
I've really tried to do a push for just some broad topics in general. I think that there are a lot of things out there that aren't covered, and things are changing so quickly nowadays that we need to be up to date on all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So definitely pushing that PD, and I think it's important not just for teachers but also for parents to be
Oh,
having
absolutely.
having that understanding as well.
Absolutely. I know with my own children, sometimes I feel like the thing that's like helped a little bit is, and I don't know if I would say help, but maybe taken a little bit of the pressure off is like being able to talk about it and being able to like name your feelings about it and like being able to feel things. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and have that safe place to have those kind of conversations. I mean, I think that can still happen in a classroom. I mean,
100%.
okay.
There's some really great social skills
Mhm.
programs out there that teach coping strategies. Um, Actually, my school counselor is implementing what's called a wheel of choice with
Oh,
our kindergarten, yes, with our kindergarten population, and it really teaches them, if you have a problem,
mhm.
look at this array of options you can choose from to solve your problem.
I love that.
So we need to be teaching that's something that I guess came instinctively to
Mhm.
previous generations. I don't know. I don't instinctively have it, but some people do. Um, but this generation that's coming up, they don't have those coping skills. So we need to be teaching them those coping skills then.
I agree. Like I actually, that was something that I made recently. Actually, was like like a they get to pick like a card. Like it was in a calming corner kit. That's what I called
Yep.
it actually.
And I'll link to it in the show notes.
It has like different strategies that they can use. And so my daughter, Emily, has been using it with the kids that she works with. She works with a little girl who has some sensory issues. And so when she like starts to get upset, Emily directs her to, and so she's like learned how to get herself out of the situation in a time like quickly. And then she has like a tent in her room, but she goes to her calming corner and like she flips through card. Well, first of all, she identifies how she feels. Like she will tell her, like, so she
Huge.
choices of like how she feels. And she, so she's looking through and then she picks which one, and then she gets to pick a strategy to use. And so she has like various things like yoga, do Play-Doh, or listen to calm music, or draw about your feelings and things like that. And she's like, it's making such a difference, Mom. She's like, she comes back and she's like, I want to tell you how I feel. And she's 4.
That's
Yeah.
that's incredible, and I think what you just said is huge. That is the first part: being able to accurately identify how you feel, and if they can identify the why, that's great too. But really, just getting to the crux of, what is this feeling?
Yes. And I think they definitely need, like, I mean, she's like showed her and modeled things like that with her, but Emily's kind of a natural teacher, so that doesn't like surprise me. But I kind of think like, I mean, as a kid, I was like that. I'd walk in the room and be like, I'm mad, or I'm happy, or like I would announce my feelings in the room, and my mom would be like, okay, like, what are you doing?
Thank you.
Yeah, that acts like that. But and I'm like, well, I don't think kids are realizing like even how they feel without
Mm-mm.
talking about it.
No, you would be surprised at the number of students that come in and they're like, there's mad, sad, and happy.
Yeah.
There's a couple more.
So disappointed. That might be how you feel.
Yeah. So I think teaching that in a classroom would be great. I mean, I know time restrictions and everything like that, but I don't know. I'm a big component of you need to have your basics covered.
I agree.
And a lot of our students don't have their basic needs covered. And we're expecting them to do all of this learning, and really, like, come on.
And they're not, no, and you're not able to do that. And even as an adult, I mean, recently, like I have been doing this yoga teacher training, and my daughter got into a car accident this week, and I haven't been able to concentrate. Like I can't study because everything is going on in my mind. And I've thought a lot about like students and kids and how they felt. And when they've got like things going on at home, or they're coming from, domestic violence, or they have, their parents are worried about how they're going to pay for the groceries that week, or
instability.
Yes. Their parents are getting divorced, or whatever's happening in their family. Even if they just got into a fight with, their brothers got into a fight or whatever, it's still things that affect you. And sometimes those basic things, because you can't get them off of your brain, like you're unable to learn anything because you can't even think straight.
Right. We don't always know what kids are coming in with.
Yeah.
We don't know. They don't come in with a sign that says, dad hit mom last night, or, I got put in my room at 4:00 and didn't eat dinner. They don't come in with that stuff. So we just really need to be aware of that. Those things could be going on.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what are some other things that teachers can do when they're trying to determine like what's going on with a student? Like what are some things they can do?
You did mention this earlier, so I do think it's probably a good place to start too, is just you yourself stay calm, right?
Uh-huh.
So if we're in an argument and you start whispering at a person, it's really going to be hard for them to continue to yell at you because it just is really silly, right?
Yes.
So if we lower if we remain calm, we talk, just taking some big breaths and kind of modeling that for a student, that can often, just relieve some of that initial tension right off the bat.
Well, the way that you just spoke to, like I automatically felt myself grow calm. I know for me, like I would have to be careful of not sounding condescending, because like that's actually a trigger for me. And my mom, when I would start to get upset, she'd be like, Trina, she would talk to me like I needed a straitjacket, and I'm like, Mom, and so it would make me and I don't think that actually calmed me down. I think it like totally revved up my.
Absolutely.
So I
maybe
think
she needed a little bit of training.
I think she might have needed a little bit of training. Yeah. And so even when people still do that to me, when they're like, if they're ever like, Trina, I'm like, oh, like,
that's a trigger.
Yes, but the way you just did it, like calmly and not like you're going crazy, but just calm and quieter. I think that would have helped a lot.
Absolutely.
All right, I think that's a really good one. Are there, what about some others?
Preparing students. So a lot of anxiety comes from lack of, knowledge of what's going to happen. So if we can prepare them for changes, allow them to have some of that knowledge, and it gives them some control, because control is another huge thing. That's a whole different facet that can be used as a strategy. Perceived control is great too. So
yes. And that would be where you would have where the choices would come in. And that, I think that's huge, because I've noticed this before. I think of a particular situation where, well, I'm just going to say it. My son, he was getting really anxious, and I knew he wanted to leave where we were, but it wasn't really an option, but I gave it to him anyway, because I felt like if he felt like he had control of whether I'm going to stay or I'm going to go, then he would be able to calm himself. I mean, and he's older, he's not 5. So, I mean, he's older, so he's learned some strategies, but he was like, immediately when I was like, we can go right now. Like, I'll go with you and we'll leave. And he was like, his whole body like calmed down. I mean, and obviously you can't tell kids we're going to leave school, but maybe you're going to leave that particular situation. Like maybe you don't have to stay in that exact, moment. Like you
can take a break.
Yes.
Right.
Take a break.
Exactly.
And if they think they can, like they don't feel trapped, I feel like that sometimes can make a huge difference as well.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, so we have some strategies to do, and like the more that we learn and the more that we talk to kids and figure out like what they're thinking and how they're feeling, I think the better chance we have.
I agree. And I'm going to do another plug here. I think growth mindset is, it's a popular topic right now, but it's huge. I know we're trying to implement that at our school right now. We're having a lot of success with it. Hearing students use the verbiage that is growth mindset, you can really change your whole thought process.
Yeah.
So having that verbiage and across settings, you're going from one teacher's classroom into specials, into the lunchroom, in the hallway, everyone's saying the growth mindset verbiage. And
Tell us what it is in case there are listeners that like they might not know. So let's just give us an example.
Well, one recently I used the other day was a bubble brain versus a brick brain, right?
Ooh.
So a bubble brain, you can expand and try new things. And, just because I'm not there yet doesn't mean I'm just being blah, blah, blah. You can expand your brain power, right? Basically. Whereas a brick brain is, no, I am this way and this is how I am and there's no changing it. And, installing in our children that you can change, you have the power to change your brain.
I love
that simple fact right there. Because growth mindset is I think a huge piece that could help a lot of students with anxiety. There's one particular student that I'm working with, and we're doing a whole anxiety program together. We're going through the whole thing, and being able to use the growth mindset that they're also learning in the classroom is just so empowering.
Yeah, I love
it. It is. It's really great.
Yeah, I think that would be a huge help. I love the whole power of yet.
Yes.
That's something that has always been something that I'm yeah, I love that. I think, we're not there yet. That doesn't mean you're not going to ever be there.
Absolutely. It's empowering. I don't know another way to say it. I mean, it gives so much strength to the student,
Absolutely. Yeah. And they need to feel that way. And especially, well, I think everybody does. I think I do.
Yes,
I think adults
do
need that as well. But I think when you're little and you feel you don't want to, we don't want to set them up to feel like they're never going to be good enough or they're never going to make it. They're not going to get there. We want them to believe that, yes, it might, sometimes we do have failure, but we learn from that. We have to take what we learn in that situation and grow from there. Have you read any of those books that are one of my favorite children's books? What do you do with a problem?
Yep. Oh yeah.
I love them.
Yes.
I think those are so I'm these are the best books because they just take these opportunities, they take things as these challenges and make them opportunities. And I just think that I love that. I think that's so cool.
It really puts, those books are fantastic. You should link them up.
I will. I actually have maker spaces for all three of them, so I will link them up.
Oh, there you go.
They're really good books. And that's one of the reasons why I actually made these products that went with those books was because I felt we've got to get kids thinking and problem solving. And even though I know there's a difference, we've got a big push towards STEM and I actually love it. I love that thinking. But the one thing that I feel like some of the things that I've been doing is a little bit loosely tied to science. It doesn't have as strong of a science component, but the whole engineering aspect and then thinking things through and then problem solving and being able to come up with creative solutions and then seeing what doesn't work and what works and build upon that. I feel like that's so important, even if we're tying science into it or not. I think it's just good thinking.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to go back to walking, right? Yes. We learn so many ways not to walk. It's the same thing for every new skill that we're picking up. And, when you tell students that example of walking, they're like, oh, wow, you're right.
Yeah. They probably don't remember ever not being able to walk.
Right. Or talking. I mean, so or eating, just our basic things. There was one point when you weren't there yet. Mm-hmm. So kiddos really need to hear that.
I think so too. And I think but I also think that maybe there needs to be some vulnerability from teachers as well, because I think sometimes kids think, which I mean, as a teacher, you love that they think you know everything. However, if you can get out of your own way, then you go, it's important for them to realize, for them to see me struggle. Like they need to know that it's okay to struggle and that this is what I do when I struggle and this is how I move beyond it. And I think that takes a vulnerability in teachers sometimes.
I used to like hide mistakes from kids, right? So if I was reading a story and I said the wrong word or I stumbled across something, I would just kind of, gloss over and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Now I actually stop and I'm like, oh man, I'm having a hard time here. Yeah. Like I highlight my failure or my struggle because they need to see that.
I think they do too. I used to tell them, I would tell almost every class that I have dyslexia and that learning how to read was really hard for me. I mean, I got it and they knew I could read because I would, read to them every single day. Right. And they're like, but I remember them, there's so many kids would look at me like, you had a hard time learning how to read. And I'm like, I did. But it was like, then it like empowered them. They're like, well, look at her. She can read now. So she kept going, and
that's so awesome.
It used to feel like it was something that made me feel kind of bad about myself for a long time, but I feel like it was like my teaching superpower.
Yeah, I could totally see that. That makes so much sense. I mean, you can connect on a totally, the vulnerability that you're talking about. I mean, you can just connect with students on such a deeper level, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that was something that I actually enjoyed a lot. All right. So why do you think that it's important that teachers better understand the needs of kids and the types of things that they struggle with? Why is that important?
That's a hard one for me. Why isn't it important? Yeah. That just for me, it's just second nature, so why is it important for a teacher to understand the needs of kids? I'm mind blown why they wouldn't want to.
Yeah, I know. You're right.
You're working with these students and they're part of your life for at least, 9-10 months, right? Mm-hmm. Count breaks or whatnot. But I don't know. I don't see students on a daily basis. I'm not lucky enough to do that. But the students that I have that I call my own, mm-hmm. I take pride in watching them grow and I want to be there for them and help them. I don't know. What was the question? I'm like, mind blown. Yeah. What?
I don't know what the question was.
There's people that wouldn't want to help.
I know. Well, sometimes I don't think it, and I don't even always think that it's people that don't want to help. I kind of think sometimes
they don't think it's their place, maybe?
Yes, they don't think it's their place to help sometimes. And sometimes I think that they get so overwhelmed with like the various needs of every single student or every single person in their room and all the expectations that are on top of them. I think sometimes they get overwhelmed. I mean, like, I hope that there's a reason, honestly.
Right.
So I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt because I think it's easy to get overwhelmed in situations. And I know I look back on times where I'm like, man, I failed that kid. Like I totally failed that kid.
Well,
and I
100% get overwhelmed. And when teachers get overwhelmed, I encourage those that are listening that are overwhelmed right now, mm-hmm. make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because if you're not taking care of yourself, there's no way that you can take care of your little ones.
You're absolutely right.
You really can't. You can't be there, be your best you, without first taking care of yourself.
I think that we forget that sometimes. I think that's a huge thing that administrators, I feel like that's an important thing for them to remember.
All need massages.
That's right. We all need massages.
Want to help your students? Get massages for your teachers.
So what do you think are some things that need to change?
I think changes need to come from the top, first of all. And it's hard because I think that sometimes when you're at the top, you forget what it's like down in the trenches. And I think some people, look at my profession like that too. I'm not in the classroom, so I don't know what a teacher is struggling with on a daily basis. But what I think needs to change is just, we need to be more vocal. We need to really be making sure that if we have issues, we're sharing them. Mm-hmm. It's not a weakness, right? Struggle is not a weakness. Struggle means you're trying to grow. So struggle is a good thing.
Yes, you're right.
I mean, we want to teach our kids that too, right?
Yes.
You're struggling, that means that your brain is growing.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing for us. If we're struggling, we are trying, and that's a good thing.
You're absolutely right. I love that. And so, and like, what are some things that we need to continue doing the same? Like, are there some positive things that we can use and continue to grow? I mean, you just talked about somebody that sounds like they're, bringing something really positive to classrooms. So I know there's some beautiful things that are happening out there.
Yes, there definitely are. I think we need to be open to change. We need to be open to individuality. Mm-hmm. We need to really be open to the differences, because we are different, and whether or not we want all students to pass a certain test, each student is different. We need to embrace that.
Absolutely.
And meet them where they're at.
And so maybe we can take everything has to be off the left side of the board and we can just switch it up a bit. And
yeah.
We can say, I am going to give you the gift of problem solving.
Right. Exactly. But I do think, working on curriculums like growth mindset and infusing that throughout the day and infusing that throughout the school, giving those tools to our children. I mean, that's an area for extreme growth.
I agree. Well, thank you so much, Leslie. You have been like I knew you would be. Like, you full of information and lots of good tips. And do you have any final things that you would like to say?
Keep plugging along. Like I said, though, please make sure that if you are trying to take care of others, make sure you are taking care of yourself, because it's not possible without doing that first. And
no, you're right. It's absolutely not. So that's a message that we all need to take and listen to.
And when you don't know, ask. There are people at your school. You might not know them. You might not know their name. You may have never seen them, but I guarantee there are people at your school that can help you, especially if you're, trying to support a student or a kiddo that has anxiety or any suspected area of maybe mental health.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's great advice. Thank you again very much.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for sticking around to listen to such an important topic. Sadly, we are seeing so many more cases of children who are struggling with anxiety in our schools, whether the cases are growing due to better diagnostic ability or because we are currently putting more and more pressure on our children from a very young age. The facts remain we have the responsibility of helping children manage the world around them and for helping them to learn to better take care of their own needs. This will require all school employees to better understand what we are dealing with and to learn to equip students with the necessary tools to help themselves. I would love to hear your thoughts on this subject. Please leave a review in iTunes and your comments on today's show. From now, this one tired teacher is ready to hit the sheets. Until next time, sweet dreams and sleep tight.